about the noise, but it's just the being in the car and driving fast here in Oregon, which is absolutely beautiful. But I wanted to talk today about a conversation that Joe and I had last night. So last night we arrived at Shasta Lake Lodge in Northern California, and it's just beautiful trees and a lodge, and it just feels so like outdoorsy, and it brings me back to my childhood and going up north. And of course it was on the East Coast, but now coming into the Northwest, it's really exciting. It's a cozy feeling, that fall feeling, even though it's 98 degrees right now. 98 degrees. So I wanted to talk about a conversation that Joe and I had last night that really inspired me, and what happens when we have these talks, which is really interesting, because the last Airbnb that we lived in for a month, so far we've been in 2 Airbnbs and a bunch of little hotels on the way across the country, and 2 Airbnbs in California. And what we're noticing is that every place that we stay has a different energy. And it's not anything you can really put your finger on because it doesn't really exist to do that. But it's more so a feeling. It's a feeling. It's a vibration. It's a feeling. And when we had this talk last night, I really do believe that the vibe was so great at that lodge. It was just, it was a family-owned. I mean, I even knew it before we looked it up. It's a family-owned business. I just felt it. Like, I just felt, like I was being held, and I guess the trees help too. That's very grounding. But it felt really good to be in a space where it was allowing my creative mind to open up a little bit more. And it's really interesting to experience these different energies and the effects that they have, not only on me, not only on Joe, but on us together as a couple. I mean, it's really interesting, especially because this is my first, we celebrate our 1-year anniversary this month, actually, which is really exciting and so bizarre. I'm like, what is time? It is definitely an illusion, because I don't even know what's been happening. But I think the energy really allowed this conversation last night, because it was so great and warm and welcoming, and just the smell of the pine, and it was so grounding and beautiful to just be able to expand into these conversations that Joe and I really like to have, but we did not have that at our last Airbnb. So let me explain why that is. So I actually posted on Facebook. I was like, has anyone ever experienced like dark energy in your house or apartment? Like, what did you do? And, of course people are like, oils or, sage. And I'm like, okay, I'm kind of doing that, but it's interesting when I kind of put things out there like that. I almost know that, it's like I know the answer, but I'm like putting feelers out there just to see if anyone has any other perspectives or ideas on it. So I've gained more clarity through just experiencing this on my own versus asking other people their opinion, because your own experience is what really creates your own truth. So it's really important to trust yourself and trust your intuition, and this is where sometimes I trip myself up in life, especially as a coach, is I love to learn so much, and I'm always looking for a new podcast episode to listen to with a new idea, a new perspective. I shy away from things that I've heard over and over again, because those are really ingrained in my head, and where I find myself tripping myself up is instead of creating, I'm listening in obtaining and taking in information and absorbing, but I am a creative energy that needs to kind of release. And what happens sometimes is I just pile all this information in that I'm it's like I have it in there, but I can't really absorb it. It's like when you drink water that's not at your pH level, you're not really getting hydrated. You know, like you have to be on that same level. And that's true, by the way. That's why alkaline water is pretty much a bunch of bullshit, unless you have really done a great job with alkalizing your body, and you can do that through breath work and certain diets, things like that. Anyways, don't want to get too off topic. But yeah, it's really interesting to feel the different energies wherever we go. And the last apartment really made us think about this a lot. And I even told Joe last night, I was like, I've been wanting to talk about this, but I didn't want to talk about it there because it just felt like there were so many ghosts there. Like basically it just felt like there were a lot of dark spirits. Joe and I both now, after leaving, we have discussed, and I saw a lot of dark spots like in my peripheral all the time when I was there. Like whether it was like shadows passing me by, I always, when I was in the moment, I'm like, okay, please don't, like, I'm like, I can't, you know, when it's late at night and you're in the bathroom and you're like, you know, and Joe's in the other room, I'm like, you get scared when you're in someone else's house and it feels like there's dark energy. It's scary. So I did not want to feed into that energy at all, or even think about it or talk to him about it. So now we're talking about it because we have escaped that bad energy, and we didn't want to like upset them even more. Because the first week we were there, we were pretty much fighting, and we're like neither of us are fighters like at all. We're both lovers, and we're both very kind, and you know, all the good stuff. But there was something that really changed that in us, and what we discussed last night is basically, I really truly believe that the energy in that place was so low. Like basically what happens when people die, there's an in-between. So like, and spirits get stuck in the in-between, which is kind of like available to the human world, but like not. It's available to the human world. I listened to a podcast about this like medium girl who sees dead people. So she sees the people that haven't crossed over yet, or that are like stuck in the in-between. So that's a part of that. I was gonna say it's a part of life. It's not a part of life. It's not a part of death. Well, it's a part of death because when you die or are about to die, your soul will do. I mean, we all don't really know this like for sure, but I've listened to a shaman talk about this, and mediums talk about this, that this in-between state is where spirits get stuck. And a lot of time those spirits that get stuck are not good energies, because there was something in their life that they were trying to escape, or that they did not want to accomplish, or that their soul is just unhappy with the way that they spent their time on earth. That's what I mean. If you need a good reason to enjoy life and to be a good person, that's probably it. You don't want to get stuck in the in-between. I've also been watching The Good Place. Joe and I just finished the 3rd season, and so all that stuff is in my mind, and it's so interesting to me, and it just makes me think. I'm like, I geek out over it. But I don't geek out over dark energy when I'm amongst the dark energy. It's like, I gotta tiptoe around that shit. So what I did when I was there is I just really channeled like goodness, because what happens is like attracts like, and bad energies they do attach onto people. Now, I'm not saying that they attach onto bad people, but they attach onto people with vibrations that are very low, that are in the frequency of envy, of anger, of resentment, of guilt, of all of those very low vibration. I was gonna say low vibration. Ooh, all of those low vibration feels. I really like that. You can use it too if you want. I won't copyright it. Maybe I will. Anyways, maybe that. Okay, I'm going off on a topic. I get excited when I create words. So that energy was so low that I had to stay above it. And Joe and I, like, when we recognized after we were like fighting, and we were just like, all right, what's going on? It just felt really off. It felt like we didn't even want to read. Like, we love to read. We didn't even want to read. We didn't, like, there was something that was just kind of like pulling our energy down and away away from like our highest selves, like for real. And it really put a stunt into the work that I wanted to do with my business this month, or last month, like basically the whole month of August. It felt like I was like walking through quicksand, like I was fighting against an energy, and it was really hard. It was really hard to get through because I just knew, I felt it, and Joe felt it too, and there was just this weirdness that we're now thinking, you know, we kind of want to test and see when we go place to place, like how we almost want to like rate the energies. So I'd love to know if you'd be interested in hearing about like my own personal experience with the different energies of different places, and maybe what affects it, and how, you know, it also should be measured, you know, not just for one night, because a lot of variables can be off in one night. Like I can have a really bad freaking period up, like I can be having my period and I'm just like pissed off, and that's just the night that we're there, and you can't really measure it from there. But it was weird. I mean, we really felt it right from the start, but we felt it throughout, you know. And I looked at the plants in that house, and they looked like, I just felt bad for the plants in there. They weren't thriving. You know, the cat, she's awesome, but I don't know. It's just like, it's really interesting that we felt that our energy was just, in order to become one with the environment, the energy plus our energy didn't mix. So what it did was it took ours and brought it down to their level. And it wasn't anything obvious where we were like really super depressed or anything like that, although I did have a few days where I just like randomly cried for no reason. But it was really, really weird and really interesting, in retrospect mostly interesting, that just the environment, like where your body, mind, and soul like are on this planet, it really, there's an energy to it. And so if it doesn't feel right, it doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with you, but it does mean that there's might be some other entities that are affecting the way that you're feeling. So not to say to run away from, like you can't run away from your problems, but also something to mention that especially in a space like that, it's really easy to kind of allow your soul or your energy to just kind of drop down to that level, and then just be kind of angry and mad and pissed off. But like, if you really work to channel light and love, you know, I worked to do breath work, which it almost felt impossible to do there. It felt like every part of me was fighting against the good things that I needed to do, like reading and journaling. I think I journaled twice while I was there. It was like my creative flow and all of the good type of energy that I usually feel. It was kind of just like, no, like we don't do that here. And again, this is so just like behind the scenes, behind the veil, and not knowing exactly what's going on, but just feeling it. And then having such an extremely different experience last night with just even having that conversation that we were able to have. It was very telling. It was very telling. And I'm so excited to explore more and make notes about how we are feeling on energetic levels, our vibrations, if they're feeling like they're being pulled down, if they're feeling like they're being pulled up, if they're feeling neutral, if my mood, you know, there's a lot of different elements. I think that there's a lot of elements to measure in regards to how this can affect your life. And I'm going to look more into it, and I hope that, I don't know, it got you thinking a little bit differently today. So let me know if you're interested in hearing more about the weird energy stuff that I love to geek out on.